This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the #1 website platform for entrepreneurs.
It never fails, man. The moment I press record, someone upstairs starts working out or doing something. And she just got done fighting. They just got into a fight and I could hear the entire conversation right through this freaking floor, man. It's so annoying. I think she's finally done. Great. All right, where were we? This right here is the new Sony 50-150 f2. The only thing that comes close is the Tamron 35-150, but that turns into an f2.8 very quickly. This gives you an f2 aperture throughout the range, which when you think about it, it's replacing a 50, it's replacing an 85. Granted, it's an f2, close enough to 1.8, but think about the big boy. It's replacing the 135 1.8, and it's not that much bigger. I mean, this is not a small lens, and this is not terribly big or heavy either. So you're replacing this, and then you got the other ones. Like, it took me till I got to the ballpark and started using it in the real world, how nice it was. Like, it didn't fully hit me how important a lens like this was, or at least how impactful it was going to be. And being able to have that prime lens separation, which makes all the difference in baseball. From f2 to f2.8 in baseball, when it does make a big difference in blurring out the crowd and creating a little bit more separation, that makes a difference. And then you got the extra 15 millimeter at the end to go to 150. Sony says that this lens is gonna be between 34 and 3900. That's tough. But I think that if we do a little bit of girl math, I think it'll all start to make a little sense. All right, check me out. The 50-150 weighs 1,340 grams. The 135 alone, again, it weighs how many? 950 grams. The 85, well, this is the 85 1.8 baddest, but let's just pretend that this is the 85 1.8 Sony because it's closest. It gives you closest to that 85 f2, all right? This one weighs 371 grams. This 55 1.8 Zeiss, but let's pretend it's the Sony 55 1.8, all right? And this one weighs 186 grams. Okay, so we got 1,500 grams on this side. We have 1,340 on this side. This combination of three lenses is heavier than this one lens that can cover all three ranges and then some. On top of that, this takes up more space in your bag than this one. And the best part about it is that you don't have to constantly switch out lenses if you are using this range a lot, which this is usually where I stay in for my portraits and even for the close-up sports. It makes sense. Actually, let me bring this back here because we're gonna do some more math, okay? In terms of price now. Sony said this lens is gonna be between $3,400 and $3,900. All right, now we're adding up these three lenses here. The Sony 35, the 135 1.8 is around $2,000. So it's like $1,900, $2,000. The 85 1.8, $600. The 50 is gonna be $250. So yes, this lens, no matter what, is going to be around like $600-700 more than the Sony versions of the lens that it's replacing. You can also get these focal lengths with third party, and it's gonna become a lot cheaper. So I do understand that. But when we're speaking of Sony lenses alone, you are gonna be paying more, but you're gonna have a lens that, I guess it just all depends on how much it means to you that you don't have to switch out your lens.
I compared the 50-150 millimeter to the best lenses that I own in the focal lengths that I think that it can genuinely replace. This was extremely interesting because I've never seen a zoom lens compete this highly to the best of the best primes that Sony have to offer. So comparing it to the 50mm 1.2 G Master, both lenses wide open. The 50 to 150 actually did a better job of, center sharpness than the 50-1.2 at f1.2, but when I stopped the 50 down to f2, well, then it was kind of a pick'em. It maybe was slightly better than the 50 to 150, but we're talking at 200%, I was only able to see the difference. Now to the 135 1.8, which is, known as one of the sharpest lenses out there, period. It was really close. At 1.8 and f2, it is just so close. I did not expect that. The one I guess the biggest surprise to me was comparing it to the 70 to 200 2.8 version 2. I compared it at 85 and 135 millimeters, since those are the focal lengths that they share and that I use the most. But the 50 to 150 just kind of mopped the floor with the 70 to 200 in this test. But of course, there's so much more to a lens than just the center sharpness. I was doing this out of curiosity for myself, and truly, I am surprised that this lens can hang with the best of the best prime lenses that Sony have to offer. But before you even think about buying a new lens, it's time to finally pull the trigger on creating a website with Squarespace. With Squarespace, you can secure your own custom domain and then create a professional looking website quickly and easily. The best part is that you need zero skills when it comes to coding and graphic design. And I'm telling you, it's extremely easy. Now, one of the coolest and newest features is Design Intelligence, which helps you design your site that's unique to you using AI technology. And I'm currently right now using that to design the landing page for my off-camera flash course that I'm putting out pretty soon. And it is so freaking cool. Follow that with the SEO feature that Squarespace offers, and you will have an easily searchable, high-performing website. And if you have a side hustle, you can start an online store like I did and make passive income while you sleep. Don't forget that if you use the coupon code Manny, you will get 10% off your first purchase. So check that out, link in the description. So I think it's going to surprise absolutely no one that the design of this lens is extremely complicated. It has 19 elements in 17 groups. You got a whole bunch of, 2 XA, 2 spherical elements, the 3 ED, the 2 super ED, and then you got the nano AR coating 2 for higher contrast in backlit situations, 11 blade aperture. This all basically means that the look that you're gonna get out of this lens is gonna be a very clinical one. Now, when we're talking autofocus, you got 4 XT linear motors that can track subjects up to 120 frames per second when you're shooting with the A9 and the A1 series of camera. Internal focusing, which is completely silent. Focus breathing is pretty much non-existent with this lens. A nice thing about using a native G Master lens like this one is that when you are zooming the lens when shooting video, it's going to maintain autofocus on your subject. Whereas with other lenses, when you zoom in, you're gonna notice that it's going to kind of hunt back and forth a little bit. I know that this is a first impressions video, but my time with this lens, I can tell you that this is the most impressive Sony lens that I've ever used, which makes it even more complicated to kind of recommend, right? Because how am I gonna sit here and recommend a lens that's over $3,500 to, okay, let's slow it down. Who do I recommend a lens like this? I think it's only for the pros. Pros that love prime lenses, but need the flexibility. If this does not include you, this lens just doesn't make sense no matter how good it is. And it is really good. Like when I went to Africa in December, I spent hours trying to figure out what lens am I gonna bring, right? Between the 135, between the 85, on the wide end. And this lens would have solved all my issues. This is a no-brainer for that, but I'm not getting paid to go to Africa to take photos, and I could have just totally rented one. So even for me, it doesn't make sense. I have all the other portrait lenses, but I don't absolutely need something that zooms. So, but at the same time, This is like the holy grail portrait lens. And this is also a great sports lens. I mean, a great indoor, even outdoor sports lens. Now, let me tell you a little something. When I was at the Sony A1 II launch trip, I was in New York. One of the Japanese engineers asked me, hey, what would be your dream portrait lens? And the truth is, I didn't want to give a cliche answer and be like, hey, yeah, I would like a 35 to 200 f1.8. You know, I didn't want to give one of those answers. And so I didn't give him an answer. I told him that I think I'm good. I'm good with what I have right now. I've got an 85, I got a 135 option, 72, you know, like there's nothing, I'm good. But the funny part is, if what Sony just created is one of those dream lenses, because a 50 to 150 f2 is pretty close to something that doesn't even sound realistic, you know, which is why the price is so damn high. Believe it or not, I've never used the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to f2.8 lens, but I've heard great things, and that lens giving you even more range than this one with the respectable f2.8 aperture for around $1,000, like that is going to make more sense for the majority of people out there. For the pros who want to take full advantage of their A9 III or their A1 II, for those videographers that need the absolute best, trust me, this lens is unbelievable. Also, hey, I'm almost done with my One Light off camera flash mini course. All right, if you want the notification when I release it, be sure to sign up to my newsletter over on my website, and I'll leave a link in the description for that. All right, I will be discounting it the first week it goes live, and I'm dumping damn near a decade of knowledge and little hacks and little tips and tricks, and even some retouching tips in this little course. So you don't want to miss out. Thank you, and I'll see you later.